So tell me what you've been up to lately. Like, what's your main focus? What are you doing right now?
So I am teaching meditation in my home. So I do private or small group classes, and the form of meditation that I teach is called Vedic meditation. In my journey of self healing, self discovery, self realization, all those things that all healers go through, I found this technique after years of practicing it. It became really clear that even though I have a real respect and love of all forms of traditional medicine, the thing that seemed to be missing in the equation was something that people could do on their own, something that helped them become self sufficient, something that actually helped them to change their patterns of behavior that resulted in the usual was something that I learned just straight out of grad school, actually. Within the first year, it had really profound effects, and I ended up going on retreat to India. And I had a profound awakening, connection, and I decided to deep dive into all of the everything that was available through that tradition. As you know, because we met in Chinese medicine school, part of our academic education is that we have to learn about Eastern philosophy and begin to cultivate our qi and figure out ways to basically become stronger and healthier ourselves in order to be able to be good practitioners. So, in that, you get to delve into different forms of Buddhism and different kinds of meditation that are out there. And really, when I found this is the one that clicked, and it's very easy to teach. I love that it creates a self sufficient meditator practitioner within 4 days. So it's a 4 day course. We meet for about an hour and a half each day and a little bit of homework. There's definitely a time and resource commitment, but it is the most profound thing that I have learned in all my years, and it's the thing that catalyzed everything else. So
That's
that's what I
really,
teach.
that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
it's so interesting. Like, do you serve any particular community? Like, do you have any particular people that you like to work with?
I welcome anybody and everybody that has a curious mind and is willing to come in and try something new. The baseline for teaching is that the student has to come with worthy inquiry, and part of that means that we do kind of like an interview like this, where
Yeah.
we just make sure it's a good fit and let them know, what Vedic meditation is, how it differs from other forms, so they have a real clear picture of what they're saying yes to. And then if they think it's the right thing for them, then they come in and they learn. It's a very historically well documented history of lineage, so it's really helpful to have that. For some people, like that kind of thing. So for me, I love that.
But how do you explain to your clients, like to new clients, what it is that Vedic meditation is and what you do?
Sure. So it is a very simple mechanical technique that can be taught to anybody. So people come in oftentimes with a very narrow or misconception of what meditation is. And so we go through what people's history is, what their preconceptions are, and I explain to them what Vedic meditation is in the big spectrum of meditation. So you can think of it like the whole arena of sports. If your daily practice is tennis versus weightlifting, your physiology looks completely different. Yes?
Mm,
Right? So
interesting.
each practice has a particular outcome that you can expect. I don't think it's very clear to people that there's a difference. They think that a guided meditation would be the same thing as any other form of meditation, and most people are familiar with Buddhist principles because that seems to be the most dominant kind of paradigm out there.
Yeah.
So each of the intro talks, it's basically a one-on-one with me like this, where I ask about them and what they're interested in. This is essentially a mechanical technique that I teach you. The first day, it's a puja, and then I walk you through your first meditation. It is the technique is essentially teaching you how to transcend. And what does that mean?
Hmm.
It just means that at every layer of consciousness that you can transcend that. This is something that helps you to easily and effortlessly transcend body consciousness, which, most meditation techniques that people know about involve concentration, discipline, focus. This is a completely opposite direction to what I teach. So some of it is about unlearning what you think you know.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you, like, what are common misconceptions that you usually get from people?
Yeah. People think it's hard. They think, oh, I can't do this. I can't silence my mind. I can't. And it really is a question of who is the I that's speaking. And it's about realigning cosmic ego with universal ego. So,
Hmm,
universal ego, cosmic ego, excuse me, with individualized ego.
interesting.
So, all of that happens naturally without any kind of intent needed. The way that we look at it is that most people come into this with not a lot of knowledge in terms of how to release old stresses. So we come into our adult lives as a bag of stress with accumulating everything from the time that we were born to our young adulthood, where every time that you've had a moment of overwhelm or not having enough adaptation energy to meet the demand, then you feel stressed, right? And
Mm,
there can be eustress, which is, good stresses like you're getting married or you're graduating, but there's lots of stress. Or it can be, the typical kind of grind of feeling overwhelmed, feeling lack, feeling all the things that create fear and division. This teaches you to turn on, it's a dial actually versus a switch, but you begin to open up the pressure release valve. And so every day with this simple practice, which is not, it's meant for householders. So I should have begun there. So
yeah.
this is not a monastic or ascetic tradition, such as Buddhism. I think that's why people think it's meant to be hard or that they
Mm,
can't do it.
yeah.
Because when you go away for, say, a Vipassana retreat, or you go away on retreat within these traditions, a lot of it is you may be able to do it in that moment, but you come home and you don't have a daily practice that you can match. So
Yes, yes,
people
that
think
makes
it's
sense.
something like, oh, I had this experience, it was wonderful. Or they can't even do it because they think that, they're supposed to force silence. As you know, you can't force the mind to go quiet. It's like you can't
Yeah.
yell at a baby to go quiet. You give the baby everything it needs and it spontaneously goes silent, right? Same thing
Yes.
with our mind. So this is the main misconception that most people have, is they think that, one, that they can't do it, that it's hard, that it's something that isn't for them because, for whatever reason. But what I teach is meant for householders, which means that it's meant for people with busy lives, commitments, they have relationships. Their main dharmic path is within the relative world. In Chinese medicine, thoughts can become substantial and can become stagnation than
Yeah.
stasis. So when you have something that can unwind stresses and let you release them, you begin to see the world with a clearer lens. It's like when you realize, oh wow, when's the last time I cleared my thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's, or people who don't wear glasses, just go look at any light bulb in your house, right?
Mm,
You're like, wow, I wasn't sitting there dusting it and making it greasy. It just happens over time. And that's the
yeah.
same thing with our physiologies. We can accumulate a lot of stress. And if we don't know how to process it and transform it or release it, all these different things, right? We've got a whole plethora of wellness menu out there.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason why I chose this particular path is that you don't have to only practice this. In fact, everything else you do or love gets enhanced by doing this thing.
Mm,
We tend to liken it to brushing teeth. That
okay.
it's just something we do. We make it a non-negotiable. We do it for ourselves as well as anybody that's around us,
Yeah.
right? And we don't even think about it. It's not a daily, am I going to brush my teeth today? Am I get, you
Yeah.
just do it because you know it's maintenance and it's good for you. But if you don't have something like this and your best form of rest is sleep, which means going unconscious, and it's not the best form of rest, you're basically surviving. So
Yeah.
in order to get to a place where you give yourself the best chances, then, all of a sudden the possibilities open up.
Do you have like a story, a particular story in mind of that like really sticks out to you, that's happened like from one of your like clients or?
I mean, so many people end up realizing that their life choice, whether it's a partnership or a job or a path, might not be the healthiest thing for them. And they're able to transition, and not in a way that's, just like closing the door, but really grow and transform that into a beautiful pivot point. They're profound things, but it's everyday things, like just being able to just realize that anything's possible.
Mm.
So it seems subtle because it's my everyday experience of my students.
Another question I have: what motivates you actually to continue to do what you do?
I mean, I find that I've grown so much as a person, and I'm able to navigate the world in a way that I feel good about, and that I'm able to empower all of my students to do the same. And so that's really it. I mean, I never continue, I never stop growing. This is not like you get to a point and then you get to sit up on some like high point and be like, I'm done evolving, enlightened. It is an ongoing path. This gives you the larger understanding of the landscape of consciousness to understand where you're at.
I was gonna ask, like, so what would you say is like the hardest part of your job, and what would you say is the easiest part of your job?
The easiest is just doing it. I love it. I love every aspect of being available for students, for teaching, for all the continued growth I get through being a teacher, and just the joy of watching people become their greatest version. Like,
Mm.
it's happening, they're transforming right in front of me. The hardest is having patience,
Mm.
because I see how much people struggle and are suffering. And it is like they don't understand, but they are contributing to collective consciousness, but they're contributing their pain, they're contributing their suffering, they're contributing their choice to ignore what they already know about themselves, which is that
Mm.
there's something greater,
That's
right?
common, it seems, right?
But yeah, it's hard to watch people struggle with things that I know they don't have to, but they have to want something and start asking before I can put my
Yeah.
hand up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds hard. So, one last question: what do you wish people knew about your profession?
Anyone can do it. It's easy. There's no barrier to you learning except your own limitations. They just really have to start
Yeah.
looking for it or wanting it, asking questions. And then people, it's like that thing where they say, the teacher shows up when you're ready. So that's it.
But thank you so much for giving me all this insight. Like, I learned a lot actually, and it's
Oh,
actually,
cool.
yeah, I actually feel like I'm like, oh, maybe I should do this.
You should. Absolutely. I love making this accessible to people who think that it's not accessible,
Hmm.
because we're all stressed out. Everybody needs this.
Yeah.
It's something that, I mean,
Especially New York.
yeah. So that's what I'm doing. That's my life's work.